The 1990s was a decade full of great television and video games, but one blue blur managed to seamlessly cross over from the Sega Genesis to the Saturday morning block of cartoons, with both style and attitude. Yeah, you got it right. We're talking about the speed menace and the fastest thing alive, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
But before we start with the show, let's take a look at the main characters of the series, starting with our hero, Sonic. He's a blue hedgehog who loves to run around flexing his speed. If you don't find him in his village, you're sure to spot him at the nearest chili dog stand, because he loves them more than anything else. Next up, we've got the Princess of Mobius, Sally, who's one of the brains behind the freedom struggle along with her assistant, Nicole. She's Sonic's childhood friend, and also his girlfriend. Now, next, we have our little buddy, Tails. He's the best bud of Sonic and sees him as his older brother. Then we've got the not exactly bravest fighter of the village, Antoine, who's the living proof that not all heroes wear capes, as some wear uniforms and hide behind the nearest rock. Next, we've got Bunny, who's just a bunny with robot limbs, typical. And then we've the final member of the Freedom Fighters, Rotor. He's your go-to guy for solving all the technical stuff, who also has a heart bigger than his toolbox. Now, for the bad guys. First up, we've got the Egghead Maniac and the ruler of Robotropolis, Dr. Robotnik. The mad scientist's main objective is to turn Mobius into a pollution-filled city and roboticize everything around him. Alongside Robotnik is his nephew and underling Snively, who's dreaming of the day to outsmart his uncle to take over the city, but only gets used up as a paperweight by his big unk. Alright, enough of the intros, we've got to go fast. Let's get started with episode 1 of season 1, Heads or Tails. The episode starts off with Dr. Robotnik cruising back to his smog-filled city of Robotropolis. He, along with his Robobird Cluck, land in the HQ with his underling Snively there to greet them. However, Robotnik just tells him to zip it up.
Shut up, Snively.
Inside the control room, Robotnik's on the hunt for his arch-nemesis, and the hero of our show, Sonic the Hedgehog. They spot Sonic's pal, Tails, on the monitor, and Robotnik's eyes light up as he orders Snively to capture the fox. Meanwhile, Tails is picking flowers for Princess Sally, when a buzz bomber suddenly appears and decides to ruin his day. Just then, Sonic, who's busy trying to impress Sally with his guitar skills,
Hey, Sam, don't you call me a fool.
hears Tails cry for help. The blue hedgehog speeds over to the screams, rescues Tails, and even takes out the buzz bomber with its own laser. That's Sonic for ya. The boys take a quick ride down a secret slide to get to Knothole Village, the place where the Freedom Fighters live. The fighters are working on fixing some catapults when we meet Princess Sally, who figures out they need metal cotter pins. Sonic races off to get a power ring with Tails and Rotor. However, our little buddy Tails wants to check out what's up with Robotropolis. At first, Sonic is reluctant, but takes him along anyway, hiding him in his backpack. They sneak around the city, dodging the bots, and bump into Sonic's old dog, Mutsky, who's now roboticized. Wow, it's kinda dark.
Stay, you don't bite, understand?
As Sonic and Tails escape from the bots, they overhear Robotnik's new evil plan of using chemical-spraying buzz bombers to kill all the trees in the Great Forest. Oh, yeah, he's also got a special Hedgehog missile. Great. And you guessed it right, it's for our boy Sonic. Unfortunately, Tails can't control his sneeze, and the two come crashing down. However, with the help of the power ring, the duo escape Sonic and warn the fighters in the village about the danger ahead. The next day, they get ready with their catapults, and with the destroyer of the worlds, a water balloon. Well, that's an interesting choice, I guess. As the buzz bombers start attacking, Sonic lures them into the range of the catapult. The Freedom Fighters fire their water bombs, and the robots start going down one after the other.
Fire!
Now, talking about the Hedgehog missile that Robotnik specially designed for Sonic, well, it gets tricked into taking out its own team. In the end, the remaining bombers retreat, leaving Robotnik in absolute disbelief. The episode ends with the Freedom Fighters celebrating their victory, while Sonic and Sally take a walk in the woods like the adorable couple that they are. We'll see a lot of Sonic-Sally moments later in the show. Don't miss out. Moving on to episode 2, Sonic Boom. Now, I can hear you all panicking. Don't worry, Sonic fans, it's just the name of the episode, nothing more. Antoine and Kat are hiding inside a vent, while outside, Sally is pulling off some moves as she clears a way for the fighters disguised as a SWAT bot. Before heading off with Sally, Sonic tells Antoine and Kat to signal if they spot any robot. As Sally hacks into Robotnik's mainframe, she receives a message saying Bean, which reminds her of the nickname given by her dad. She finds out that the message she received came from a place called the Dark Swamp, which surprises her. However, things take a turn for the worse when Antoine, being Antoine, accidentally alerts the SWAT bots. As they escape, Kat sacrifices himself to save Sally and Antoine. Back in the forest, Sonic learns about Cat's capture and Sally's plan to check out the Dark Swamp. However, Sonic's not pleased with Sally going to the swamp, especially along with this guy, because, why? But Sally's adamant and wants to go to the swamp with or without our blue hedgehog. So, with no other choice, Sonic heads off to rescue Cat while Sally and Antoine head to the swamp. Meanwhile, Robotnik tries to squeeze some information about the village and the fighters from Cat. He refuses to answer, which angers Robotnik and ends up getting thrown into prison. But our boy Sonic finds him out and attempts to rescue him. However, Cat asks him to save Sally, as Robotnik's behind her. Back in the Dark Swamp, Sally and Antoine are heading towards a mysterious place, completely unaware that they're being watched by Robotnik's spy orb. Eventually, they find an old prison called Iron Lock, and Sally is convinced that this is the place where her dad sent the message from. Sonic heads to find Sally. However, it's not as easy, as a couple of stealth bots start chasing him. He pulls off a smooth move that causes the stealth bot to destroy itself. Pretty good. Now, back at the Iron Lock prison, Sonic joins up with Sally and Antoine, who stumble upon an ancient computer. Sally finds a message from her dad, and also some much-needed intel on Robototropolis' tunnels. But suddenly, the floor opens up, and they fall into the sewers. They face off against a huge one-eyed monster robot, and Sonic doesn't waste a minute as he uses the power ring to pass right through the thing. They sneak into Robotropolis, and Sally starts reprogramming the stealth bots. While Sally and Antoine move to the safe zone, Sonic goes back to rescue Cat. But unfortunately, Cat's gone, and this is the last time that we'll ever see him. After Sonic meets up with his friends, he uses the spy orb to show Robotnik his self-destructing stealth bots, along with a message. That was for Cat.
Yo, Robotnik, that was for Cat.
Next episode, Ultrasonic, kicks off with Sonic and his girlfriend Sally sneaking into Robotropolis on a mission to take out Robotnik's roboticizer. After initiating the roboticizer, Robotnik and Snively get alerted and send a couple of SWAT bots to take care of the fighters. The next thing you know, Sonic and Sally are running for their lives as they dodge SWAT bots and hover units left and right. He, along with Sally, pulls off some crazy moves and manages to make it to the rendezvous point. However, the chase isn't over yet, as the hover units are still hot on their trail. They make it to the subway, and that's when Sonic spots his roboticized uncle, Chuck, for the first time.
That bot is my Uncle Chuck.
After seeing his beloved uncle, Sonic can't stop himself from rescuing him, but Sally stops him, saying that they need a plan. They meet up with the rest of the Freedom Fighters, who have been busy searching for parts to reverse the roboticization. Sonic reveals that he found his Uncle Chuck being taken to the Crystal Mine. After hearing about his uncle, they're all in, and using an old transporter vehicle, they head straight to the Crystal Mine. Once they get there, Sonic tries to speak with Chuck, who starts attacking him wildly.
Uncle Chuck, what are you doing?
Seeing this, he uses the power ring that, sure enough, does the trick, and Chuck's back to his old self. They share a warm hug, and Uncle Chuck recognizes the rest of the Freedom Fighters. He then takes the fighters down to the mine and shows them a massive energy crystal that Robotnik wants to take power from. He further explains that the evil Egghead guy is planning to use the crystal to replace his oil supply, but at the cost of destroying the Mobius's ecosystem. So in order to stop that, Unc reveals his plan of using the Dinobot to cut the cables and stop the crystal from being lifted out. However, things don't really go to plan. As Uncle Chuck takes control of the Dinobot, the SWAT bots get alerted and start fighting back. In the end, they manage to stop the energy crystal from being taken away. But Uncle Chuck starts turning back to his robot state, and all he can do now is say goodbye to Sonic to prevent harming him. Sonic doesn't want to leave his Unc behind and refuses to let him go.
You gotta come with me, Sonic!
Even if he's gonna be a robot. But nothing can be done, as Bunny and Sally literally drag Sonic onto the train. The episode ends with Sonic promising to come back and rescue his uncle one day.
Y'all did what you could, honey. We couldn't bring him back. He's loyal to Robotnik.
Moving on to the next episode, Sonic and the Secret Scrolls. Sonic's juicing through the forest before Tails and Bunny stop him. They close his eyes and take him to show their new plane, the Freedom Stormer. The Blue Blur's not impressed. Competition, maybe? I don't know. But Sally's excited about using it to fly to the ruined city of Maga to find some secret scrolls her dad told her about. But Sonic refuses and thinks that the plane is pretty sketchy. However, Sally's determined to go with or without him. And of course, Sonic doesn't want to leave Sally alone, so he agrees to tag along by dashing to the ancient city. It's a bit of a rough start for our heroes, as the plane nearly crashes on its maiden trip. And even when they reach Maga, Rotor loses control of it, as the plane is all set to go down the cliff. But Sonic grabs the plane's rope, pulling it before they go off. They start exploring the ruins and come across an arrow stone with a cryptic message, confusing Antoine, who's still shaky from the landing. They move on to a strange hedge maze that grows back instantly when Sonic uses his super spin on it. Not only that, the creepy wind sound coming from the place freaks out Antoine again. As they move on, they find ancient markers that are actually tests that they have to pass. They solve the first puzzle of finding the chair and get launched over the wall to the temple. Then, they head inside a temple and find 2 scrolls, with one of them being a fae. But Sonic and Sally are puzzled with which scroll to go with. Right then, Bunny chimes in, reminding them of the first riddle. This prompts Sally to think from a different perspective, as she figures out that they solved the first riddle by intelligence, and what they're facing now is a test of spirit. So together, they decide to go with the left one, which turns out to be the real deal. With the help of Nicole, they translate the scroll, which shows the breath of Mobius as the first wonder. Seeing it, Rotor immediately recognizes it as the source of the creepy wind. As they get ready to move to the next test, Robotnik shows up and demands the group hand over the scrolls. But Sonic starts making fun of Robotnik, allowing for the rest of the fighters to escape from the temple. However, Robotnik's not done yet, as he sends the stealth orb to track down Sonic. With the help of Sally, Sonic finds the breath of Mobius and hides within it. Robotnik, along with Snively, arrive at the wind tunnel, and Robotnik orders Snively to send the orb in. Right then, the wind comes out, sending Robotnik, along with Snively and the pods, flying off the cliff.
I'm in here, Robotnik. Come and get me.
The Freedom Fighters head back to the Freedom Stormer, as they think that Robotnik's gone forever. But this time, the pilot's gonna be our boy Sonic, who pulls off all sorts of crazy stunts as Sally and the others pray for their safe return. But wait, there's more, as we see the Egghead Robotnik and Snively survive the fall as he yells at Sonic and his gang, saying that they will pay for what they did. Moving on to episode 6, Super Sonic, we see Rotor, along with Sally and Bunny, trying to upgrade their water wheel. However, poor Bunny's looking a bit rough, as she has no time for her beauty sleep. As she's lamenting, Sally brings the biggest wrench she could find to Rotor as he works on doubling their power output. She tries to use Nicole to look up some info, but the AI starts showing holograms of roses and chili dogs instead of what she was looking for. She figures out that Nicole's got a busted chip. The only way to solve it is to go to Robotropolis. So Sonic, along with Sally, head to the city and sneak into the factory. She manages to take a couple of chips, not before setting off the alarm. As she's escaping, she ends up in the Forbidden Zone with a SWAT bot right behind her. Luckily, a mysterious figure shows up and zaps the bot with a laser, saving Sally. This catches the attention of Dr. Robotnik, who's watching everything like a pesky neighbor. The scene then shifts to Sally, who's sharing her encounter with the rest of the fighters, and it turns out the mysterious figure is none other than Lazar's guardian. So who's this guy, Lazar? Well, he's an evil wizard who has been sleeping in the Forbidden Zone for years, waiting for the legendary chili dog that will summon once in 1,000 years. Well, not exactly. Except for that last part. That last part is true. Hearing this, Sonic gets excited and decides to go after Lazar, thinking he could help defeat Robotnik. Meanwhile, Robotnik enters Lazar's room and steals his magical computer. Right then, Sonic makes his way into the fortress and dodges Lazar's traps one after the other. Finally, he makes it into Lazar's room, only to find the wizard gone and his computer gone too. Lazar shows up and traps Sonic in a bubble, thinking that he must be the thief. But Sonic convinces the wizard that he's actually the good guy. The wizard, who's skeptical at first, agrees to let him go. However, with one condition. He takes away his speed and promises him to give it back if he returns the computer. Back in Robotropolis, Robotnik's enjoying his new magical toy as he teleports Sally and Bunny to his lair and puts them under a mind control spell. Now, Sonic, who's not so speedy anymore, sneaks into Robotnik's base, only to get teleported by the madman himself, who promptly decides to roboticize Sonic. But Sonic manages to take Lazar's computer and break the spell on his friends. He returns the magical computer back to Lazar, and the wizard gives Sonic back his speed, disappearing with his fortress. The episode ends with Sonic, along with Sally and Bunny, getting teleported back to the village, as Rotor shows off his new water wheel that powers a light bulb. It's another gloomy day in Robotropolis, as Sonic, Sally, and Bunny are on a covert mission to take down Robotnik's generator. As Sonic distracts the bots, Sally and Bunny break into the generator plant and overload the system, completely destroying it. They escape from the city, but their celebration is short-lived when they realize Robotnik's got a backup generator. However, Robotnik is not happy either, as he decides it's time to get rid of Sonic once and for all. This time, the usually useless Snively suggests a speed contest to be used as bait to catch Sonic and finish him off. And oh boy, Robotnik is impressed. So we're back in Knothole, as Sonic, Sally, and Tails are reading flyers about this new race contest. Seeing the poster, Sally understands that it has to be a trap, but Sonic, being Sonic, is like, no way, I'm totally gonna win, as he comes up with a plan to use the race as a distraction to take down the backup generator. So we cut to race day, and Robotnik shows off his secret weapon, a robot cheetah that can run at 500 miles per hour. Right when Sonic arrives, the race kicks off as he blasts towards the finish line, with the robot cheetah proving to be tough competition. Knowing that he would lose, Robotnik throws everything that he's got, but our hero dodges it all with style as he even shows off his gymnastic skills. A solid 11 out of 10. Nice. Meanwhile, Sally, Bunny, and Antoine are on their own mission as they reach the backup generator. They make it inside, but Antoine jumps in to help the princess, only to get stuck in the conveyor belt. Back in the race, Sonic is neck and neck with the robot cheetah when he spots a distress flare from Sally, so he abandons the race and heads straight to help his friends. He saves Antoine with the help of the power ring and also takes out the backup generator. The lights go out all over Robotropolis, and Robotnik's left fuming in the dark as his red angry eyes stare down on poor Snively, who's probably wishing that he could turn invisible right now. The episode ends with the fighters of Knothole having a toast to celebrate their victory as a big step towards freeing Mobius. Episode 10, Sonic's Nightmare, kicks off with Sonic having a crazy dream. Shocking, I know. He's running through a wasteland when he suddenly hears the princess crying for help. But before Sonic can reach her, Robotnik shows up with his bots and a portable roboticizer. As Sonic reaches to save Sally, it starts raining and he gets stuck in a pile of mega muck as he watches Sally get roboticized, turning into a worker bot.
I'm coming, Sal.
He wakes up in a cold sweat and talks about his wild dream with Rotor, but there's no time for dream analysis as Sally comes in with some bad news. Apparently, Robotnik is cooking up a new plan to create artificial acid rain on one of the islands in Mobius, so our heroes get ready to teach him a lesson by dressing up as SWAT bots to sneak onto Robotnik's cloud burster. However, things don't go as planned, as Antoine makes a total mess out of it. Jeez, this guy has helped Robotnik more than anybody else, seriously. With Sally, Bunny, and Antoine captured, it's left to Sonic to save the day. But our boy is on his own mission as he scouts the island of Nimbus, which turns out to be empty. So he heads back to find his friends missing and follows the trail left by the cloud burster. Back on the island, Sonic is welcomed by Robotnik via a self-guided fireball, but our Hedgehog's too quick as he leads it on a chase before dunking it in the water. He tries to help his friends escape from the cage, but Sally reminds him that there's something more important that he should do right now: stop Robotnik. But Sonic starts getting visions of his nightmare as he struggles to fight with it. While Sally and others try to snap him out of it, it only gets worse as he starts thinking about what Sally said. However, Sonic is not the kind of guy who gives up, so he snaps out of it and comes up with a plan. He starts drilling the ground and floods Robotnik's cloud burster with oil, forcing him to bail out. As the blimp crashes down, the fighters are glad that they've got rid of Robotnik for good. But little do they know, he's still alive. He's about to launch a missile to finish off Sonic, and whoop. Bad Luck Snively informs them that the circuit grid is destroyed and all they can do now is retreat. If things weren't bad enough, the island is sinking. Sonic uses his power ring to save Sally and the others from the electrified cage and races off along with his friends to make a daring escape. Also, let's not forget, Sally gets super impressed by Sonic's genius plan, so much so that she gives him a kiss. That Hedgehog must be on cloud 9 right now. The episode ends with Sally telling Sonic about his nightmare being a warning, but Sonic's already dozed off, dreaming about his good old chili dogs. The next episode, Warp Sonic, starts with the fighters Sonic, Sally, and Antoine in Robotropolis Traffic Control Center. After dodging a couple of SWAT bots and some fancy laser grids, Sonic successfully paralyzes all of Robotropolis' traffic. But just as they're about to escape, the alarms go off and they're surrounded by SWAT bots. Right then, a mysterious guy, Griff, pulls them through a secret opening. He introduces them to the underground city of Lower Mobius and takes them on a wild ride through a tunnel that nearly gives poor Antoine a heart attack. They finally arrive in Lower Mobius, and soon Sonic heads to the nearby chili dog stand. But before he can chow down, an alarm goes off. As it turns out, they've got some uninvited guests. Rats. No. Not the type of rats that you'd expect, but massive robo-rats. Griff shows up and asks Sonic for help, and you guessed it, our boy's ready to run as he takes on these robo-rodents with ease. However, a massive rat bot shows up, so they make an escape using the power ring. After seeing the power of the power ring, Griff gets all googly as he thinks that the rings can solve Lower Mobius' energy problem. He starts sweet-talking with Sally, which makes not only Antoine but also Sonic jealous. Griff offers to take them back to the surface, and they happily agree. Once they're in the village, Griff pretends that his hover sled has some problems. Seeing this, Sally invites him to stay the night. Later that day, she takes him on a tour to the Lake of Rings and shows the power ring. While Antoine's sleeping, Griff sneaks out and steals the power rock that powers the ring generator. Antoine wakes up to realize that the power rock is gone and heads to inform Sonic and the other fighters. Hearing this, Sonic rushes to find the rock missing. He figures out that Griff has stolen it and races off to get it back. Meanwhile, Lower Mobius is under attack by ratbots again. Right then, Sonic arrives on time using a spin dash to take out the ratbots and save the day. The episode ends with Griff realizing his mistake and returning the power rock, but Sonic breaks off a piece for Lower Mobius, and they both shake hands as a sign of friendship. Diving into episode 12, Subsonic, we've got Robotnik, who's up to no good, and this time he wakes up an ancient creature, the Kraken, and all just for some oil. Not only that, the drilling is messing with the underground water, turning it green and spilling it into the Great River. Back in Knothole Village, our heroes are having a tree crisis as nothing is growing. Meanwhile, Sonic is playing the guitar and enjoying the time of his life by doing some go fishing. Suddenly, he gets pulled by a massive fish and discovers a strange green water that makes plants grow like crazy. In order to find it out, Sonic and his gang decide to investigate and sail down the Great River. They get sucked into an underground lake that's full of polluted water and mechanical junk. To make matters worse, Antoine disappears, and the rest of the group are dragged towards the waterfall. Seeing it, Sonic pushes the boat against the stream and ends up in a cave full of crazy carnivorous plants, where Sally almost becomes plant food, before she eventually disappears. Both Sonic and Rotor start looking for Sally and enter into Kraken's place. When they decide to split and look for Sally, Sonic gets captured by Kraken. As Rotor runs to save himself, he falls into a hole and discovers the source of the green water. He manages to unblock it, which starts bringing the forest back to life. The scene shifts to Sonic, Sally, and Antoine, who are stuck in nasty, polluted water. As the water level keeps rising, Sonic tries to grab the power ring in his backpack, but he fails. Meanwhile, Rotor's having a difficult time as he spots Robotnik's snake probes that start shooting lasers. Hearing his friends' voices, he finds Sonic and the others stuck in the water. He rushes to help, but almost gets pulled by a vine into the water. He takes out the power ring and uses it. Sonic is then able to quickly save Sally. Sonic, Sally, and Antoine appreciate his bravery, and Sally even kisses Rotor on the cheek. Right then, Kraken enters, and we get to know that he isn't actually a bad guy. He's the last survivor of an ancient underground civilization that was wiped out by surface pollution. But before they can sort things out, Robotnik's snake probes show up and start attacking them. With the help of Rotor, Sonic races to the surface to deal with the drilling platform. He then destroys Robotnik's control center, activates the probe's self-destruct sequence, and brings the whole drilling platform crashing down. Now, back in the underground, Rotor uses the green water to purify the polluted lake. As a sign of gratitude, the Kraken gives them some of this magic water to help revive the Great Forest. The episode ends with Sally using the green water to bring life back to the forest, with Sonic asking Rotor how his experience as a hero was, to which he replies, preferring to be a handyman. I can't blame him. Moving on to the final episode of Season 1, Sonic Pass Cool, we see Bunny getting some upgrades to her robo-legs with the help of Rotor and Sally. However, things aren't really smooth, as Bunny's left bouncing through the roof like a pinball. As Sonic and the others are occupied with helping out Bunny, we see Tails spending his time playing hockey. He accidentally knocks the puck into the bushes and finds a baby pteropod that he calls Baby T. After playing with the pteropod, he sneaks him into the village to feed him. But Baby T has the table manners of a vacuum cleaner as he sucks up all the food. The secret doesn't last long, as his new friend gets caught. The princess immediately recognizes it as a pteropod and explains that Baby T needs to rejoin his herd. Right then, Sally informs Sonic that the herd's going the wrong way, so Sonic steps in, telling the pteropods that they're going the wrong direction. Baby T's mother, who's hostile at first, calms down after seeing her son. Using the communication belt, Sally tries to speak with Mama T. However, the pteropods start panicking. Back in Robotropolis, Dr. Robotnik is planning his next goal of roboticizing the pteropods because apparently he's running out of things to turn into robots.
These pteropod beasts are the final species to be roboticized, Snidley.
Meanwhile, Sonic and his gang follow the herd into the great jungle. Right then, Mama T yells danger as the stealth bots start chasing them. The bots trap the gang in a force field, and poor Mama T gets snatched up in a floating cage. But Sonic, along with Bunny, pulls off some acrobatics to save her. Instead of getting pissed, Robotnik's confident, as he believes that the fighters can't get out of the force field. The power ring to break through it, as they escape with the pteropods. But Robotnik's not giving up that easy. He chases them into scorched plants, only for stealth bots to get destroyed. Finally, the pteropods make it safely to Boulder Bay, but Tails has to let go of Baby T. Seeing this, Sally gives Baby T the communication belt, which it uses to talk to Tails as they both say goodbye to each other. Alright, we start episode 1 of Season 2 with a bunch of SWAT bots chasing a poor ram across the desert. Sonic and Sally are scavenging a busted hover unit as they're on the hunt for de-roboticizer parts. However, they aren't lucky enough to find any useful parts except a huge magnet. Well, at least they got a magnet, I guess. Meanwhile, the bravest fighter of Knothole, Antoine, is busy trying to woo Sally with some cheesy poetry. Now, with his poem ready, he rushes to recite it. However, instead of presenting it, he makes a complete mess of the place, forcing Sonic to save Sally. Right then, Tails spots a ram chased by some SWAT bots. Hearing this, Sonic heads off to help. With a little magnetic magic from Sally, they take down the bots. Later that night, the ram introduces himself as Ari, who spins a tale about being the last of his freedom fighter group. Sally is skeptical about his story, but our boy Sonic is all in. However, little do they know, both Robotnik and Snively are watching right through the orb. Sonic decides to leave with Ari, while the rest of the gang heads back to Knothole with the parts. On the way, Dulce bumps into a tree, causing her to crash land into Rotor's workshop. Over there, they question a captured SWAT bot head that spills the beans that Ari is working with Robotnik. The scene shifts to Sonic and Ari, who are heading towards a suspicious-looking pyramid. They dodge some nasty traps and a chompy robot head, and finally enter the pyramid. However, just as Sally arrives, the ram closes the door. Ari then tricks Sonic into a room and leaves apologizing.
I wish there were another way.
as Sonic finds himself facing Robotnik's most diabolical creation, a giant pinball machine. While Sonic's bouncing around, Sally and Dulce start chasing after Ari to Robotropolis. They finally arrive, and Ari demands Robotnik to release his friends, but oh boy, he learns the hard way that Robotnik doesn't play fair, as he finds his buddies have been turned into robots, as he himself is taken away to be turned into a robot, obviously. Sally, along with Dulce, rescues Ari, and they head straight to the pyramid. Now back in the pinball hell, Sonic is really holding his own. But Robotnik's not gonna play fair, as he keeps changing the rules. And just when Sonic is about to be sucked into the void, Ari shows up. As the void starts sucking everybody around him, Ari sacrifices himself, and also drops information related to Sally's dad.
The list! Her father's list!
In the end, the whole fortress gets sucked into the void, and Sonic is devastated, knowing that Ari sacrificed his life for him. Diving into episode 2, Sonic Conversion. We've got Robotnik showing off his new toy, the Shriekbot, which is a super fast jet that he can control from his comfy chair in Robotropolis. But it looks like Snively's not liking it, as he silently insults Robotnik, which the Egghead guy hears. Scene shifts to Sonic and Sally, who are in the city to check out what's happening. Seeing the Shriekbot, Sally's worried it might actually be faster than our blue Hedgehog. Of course, Sonic's ego cannot handle that, as he nearly blows their cover to prove the princess wrong. Right then, Sonic spots Uncle Chuck working on the Robotnik Shriekbot. He tries to rescue his uncle, but ends up in a high-speed chase with the Shriekbot. However, our boy's got the power ring, which helps him outrun it. Now, back in Knothole, the gang's been working on a de-roboticizer, which, as the name suggests, can be used to turn the robots back to normal citizens. They test it on Bunny, and it works like a charm. Seeing this, Sonic wants to use it on Uncle Chuck right away, but Sally wants to check whether the machine works properly, asking him to wait before testing it out on Chuck. However, Sonic is all like, no. So he goes back to Robotropolis and uses the power of the power ring to snap Chuck out of his robot form. He brings him back to the village only for the de-roboticizer to break down, leaving Chuck as a wild robot again. But Sonic is not giving up though. He pulls off this crazy plan where he pretends to surrender to Robotnik just so he can steal some parts from the roboticizer. He grabs the parts and makes a run for it. Finally, they get Chuck de-roboticized and everything seems great, as he even helps them improve the de-roboticizer. And our boy Sonic's thrilled to have his uncle back. But suddenly, Bunny starts sparking, and her robotic parts come back. And you guessed it, the same thing happens to Chuck. He kidnaps Tails and Antoine before destroying the de-roboticizer as he heads back to Robotropolis with Sonic in pursuit. But before he can stop his Unk, he gets stuck in Mega Muck. Talk about some bad timing. With the help of Dulce, Sonic catches up to Uncle Chuck, and that's when Mr. Charles, that's his uncle's name by the way, fights for control over his own mind, and he wins. However, he decides to stay in Robotropolis as a secret agent. After seeing Sonic, Robotnik sends out the Shriekbot for one final ride. However, Sonic outsmarts it, leaving only the cockpit to make it through the crack.
Fast but stupid.
The episode ends with the gang back in the village, as everyone's a bit sad after what happened during the day. The de-roboticizer's gone, Bunny's back as a part robot, and Uncle Chuck's stuck in Robotropolis. But at least they got a spy in Robotropolis now. Moving on to episode 3. No-brainer. We see Uncle Chuck's doing his work as a secret agent, tucking away a message for our freedom fighters. Meanwhile, Sally's got her eyes on the binoculars as she watches Sonic pull off the most Sonic move ever, outrunning swap bots while chowing down on a chili dog. After a quick message pickup, the gang learns their mission is aborted. But does that stop Sonic from hunting down another chili dog? Of course not. So he darts off once again. Now over in Robotnik's lair, Snively is enjoying sitting on Robotnik's chair. But the poor guy's happiness doesn't last long, as Robotnik storms in, threatening to turn him into a paperweight if he fails. The scene then shifts back to Sonic, who's just scored his second chili dog jackpot. Right then, he stumbles by a group of captured freedom fighters, so our hero, without wasting any time, jumps into action and frees the prisoners, driving Snively absolutely nuts. But unfortunately for Sonic, he gets hit with the memory scrambler, which does exactly what you would expect. It totally messes with his memory. Now back in the village, Sally is worried about Sonic, who has not returned yet. Right then, Dulce comes crashing through the door and tells them even she can't find Sonic anywhere. So, Sally sends off a message to Uncle Chuck to meet up in a secret spot. But little do they know, Snively's got our boy Sonic wrapped around his finger. He introduces himself as Snively the Great, and also convinces him that Sally's no good. Sally and the others start looking for Sonic. They find him with Snively. They eavesdrop on their conversation and find out that Snively is controlling Sonic. He orders the Hedgehog to find Knothole and also gives him a radio to send the coordinates. Hearing this, Sally, Bunny, and Dulce fly back to warn everyone in the village, but Dulce bumps into a tree. They finally reach the village, but before they can inform Tails, Sonic has already made his way to the watchtower. After seeing Sonic, Tails flies to have a chat, but immediately he notices something is off with his friend. Later, Tails meets up with Sally and the others and learns the truth about Sonic's Sonic's strange behavior. Sally, along with the other fighters, head in an underground passage under a stump with Sonic searching for them. Right then, Snively lands in Robotnik's hovercraft and starts looking for the fighters using a heat sensor. Uncle Chuck, who's hiding in the hovercraft, meets up with the fighters and tells them to use the power ring to wake Sonic up. So Tails heads to the Lake of Rings, snatches the power ring, and gets a big smooch from Sally. However, Sally's not done yet, as she's got one more task for our little guy to do. Meanwhile, the SWAT bots find Antoine and the rest of the fighters. Snively gives them 5 seconds to get out and orders Sonic to find Sally. So our boy speeds away to find her and the rest of the other fighters. On his way, he stumbles and finds Tails, who tries to remind him that they're his friends. But Sonic's not buying it, as he believes his only true friend is Snively the Great. Seeing it, Sally throws the power ring to Sonic, which restores his lost memory. While Sonic's back, the rest of the fighters get hit by the memory scrambler, leaving them all a little, well, scrambled. Right then, Sonic swoops in and snatches the memory scrambler from Snively. He then hits it on Snively, making him taste his own medicine, and has him call out Sonic the Magnificent. Uncle Chuck gets into Robotnik's hovercraft and tries to stop the stealth bots advancing into the territory. However, they won't stop unless he puts the right password in. After a couple of tries, Chuck, along with Sally, figure out that the password and the bots return back to Robotropolis. Later, they take Snively back to Robotnik's headquarters, and Sonic shows him a picture of Robotnik, telling him that he's his enemy. Chuck and Sally replace the location of Knothole with the Great Swamp and leave from the headquarters. When Robotnik shows up, Snively tries to take him on, but Robotnik just kind of throws him into the wall, and that's enough for him to regain his memory.
Always wanted.
He tells Robotnik he has finally found Knothole, so Robotnik lets him go. But when they get there, they find only a bunch of mosquitoes in the Great Swamp. Robotnik tells Snively he's testing his patience, as the poor guy desperately tries to find Knothole in the swamp. The next episode, Blast to the Past, kicks off in the ever-gloomy streets of Robotropolis, where Sonic and Sally, along with these guys, are playing hide-and-seek with the SWAT bots. And just when they think that they've scored a win, their freedom fighter friends get caught and are turned into robots. Jeez, that was pretty quick. Poor Sally's beating herself up over the loss, as she believes that she was the reason behind it. Seeing this, Dolce gives her an idea. Why not use the mythical time stones to change the past? Sally is skeptical, because, you know, physics and stuff, but Sonic is all in. So off they go, as they reach their destination of the mythical floating island. After the classic crash landing, Sonic and Sally find themselves on a piece of land which Sally believes is just some plain area, not the non-existent floating island that defies physics. Duh. But Dolce promptly pulls back the curtain as she sucks in the air to blow away the clouds, revealing the mysterious island. As the duo prepare themselves to enter the temple, they come face to face with some stone gargoyles who apparently don't like visitors. So what do the princess and the Speed Menace do? Run. As the gargoyles don't stop chasing them, Sonic decides to jump off the island. The gargoyles vanish into thin air, and our duo are left falling from the sky. Sonic quickly signals Dolce, who gives them a ride back to the island. So with the gargoyles gone, the duo head inside the temple, only to find themselves trapped in a funhouse. They finally reach a door, and get transported to the old owl, who tells them that he'll reward them with a time stone if they solve the riddle. Spoiler alert, the answer is time. Yeah. Pretty straightforward there. The owl is impressed and explains that in order to use the time stone, they must synchronize their thinking. But Sonic, he doesn't really understand. So the princess steps in, telling him that they both have to think the same. Simple. She tells Sonic to concentrate on the palace fountain in the year 3224. However, thinking only makes Sonic dream about chili dogs, as they both get teleported to the past. The duo find themselves in Mobotropolis, with SWAT bots greeting them and wishing them a nice day. That's when they realize that they've teleported at the time before the city was roboticized. Eventually, Sonic meets his younger self and can't control his excitement. They team up with Uncle Chuck to try and stop Robotnik's evil plan before it starts. But surprise, surprise, they're a week early to the party. As they scramble to save the day, young Sonic's busy challenging his older self to chili dog eating contests. Well, some things never change. Uncle Chuck asks Rosie to take care of the kids, as Sally and Sonic head to meet the king. Meanwhile, Robotnik, or should I say Julian, is busy setting his evil plan. While Sally has a touching reunion with her dad, Julian, who now calls himself Robotnik, crashes the party with his destroyer. We continue with where we left off, as Sonic along with the princess find themselves in the middle of Robotnik's coup. So with no other option, Uncle Chuck tells Sonic to grab Sally and make a run for it. After a bit of hesitation, Sonic leaves with Sally, leaving Uncle Chuck to fend off the bots. The duo starts scurrying to find the kids, but end up getting caught and tossed in prison. Over there, they see their younger selves and mini versions of their friends beyond the bars. Meanwhile, Robotnik's living his best villain life as his pollution-spewing spaceship destroyer sails across the sky. Sonic and Sally manage to escape their cell and set off to find the kids. The scene shifts to Robotnik, who along with Snively is ready to turn Bunny into a robot in the roboticizer chamber. Seeing that, Sally, with the help of Nicole, manages to short-circuit the roboticizer. Right then, they also spot the destroyer heading towards the Great Forest. As this wasn't supposed to happen in the original timeline, they have to stop the destroyer as well as save the kids. As they race to catch catch up with the destroyer, they bump into Snively, who ends up losing most of his hair. They also save Dulce's mother, Sabina, while Robotnik sends Sally's father into the void. After successfully destroying the destroyer with the help of Dulce's mother, the duo head back to the city. Back in Robotropolis, Robotnik starts roboticizing the citizens, including Uncle Chuck, in front of the young Sonic, who watches in horror. Right then, Sonic bursts in, fights off the SWAT bots, and partially roboticizes Robotnik's arm. As they escape, the duo lead the kids along with Rosie to safety through a secret tunnel to Knothole Village. Before they leave, Sally warns Rosie to never leave the village, changing the timeline to prevent Rosie's future roboticization. The episode ends with Robotnik showing up with his army, only to find Sonic and Sally using their time stone to zip back to the present. They return to find that things have changed with Rosie still around. So the moral of the story is that never mess with the past, as it can be quite dangerous. But hey, if you got a super fast Hedgehog and a princess on your team, you might just pull it off. Episode 9. The Void. Starts off with Sonic juicing through the great unknown, when suddenly a mysterious hole opens up and tries to suck him in. But our hero is way too fast, as he escapes and takes away a mysterious golden artifact with him.
Maybe Sal can figure it out. Head up to the metal town.
Back in Knothole, Sally's excited about the artifact that Sonic found, thinking that it's proof of some giant race called the Mandaras. But what they don't know is someone is watching them from afar. And who is this guy? Well, we'll learn about him soon. As Sonic leaves for his mission, the artifact starts glowing and snatches up Sally and Bunny in some red energy, taking them away. While this is happening, Sonic is off in Robotropolis as he learns about Robotnik's latest evil scheme, the Doomsday Project. And we also get a flashback of Robotnik betraying Naugus, the same guy who's watching Sonic and Sally like it's a reality show, and trapping him into the void. After his visit to Robotropolis, Sonic heads back to the village to find Sally and Bunny gone. He tries to get some info from Nicole, who speaks in a way that Sonic doesn't really understand. Frustrated, he starts shaking the device that causes her to finally speak in proper English. She shows a holographic video of what happened to Sally and Bunny while he was away. He finds a suspicious red energy surrounding them and asks Nicole about it, who says it's from the void. He heads to the great unknown and starts looking for this mysterious void. Robotnik spots Sonic and wonders what he's doing in the middle of nowhere. Thinking it might be related something to Naugus, he orders his minions to attack the Hedgehog. Sonic gets cornered by the hover units and gets sucked up by the void. In the void, Sonic meets up with Naugus, who warmly greets him. He sees the crystallized Sally and Bunny, but the sorcerer quickly removes the spell and both the girls give Sonic a tight hug. With the void open again, Sonic tries to leave, but Naugus blocks their way. However, it doesn't stop Sonic from digging using his super spin, and they find themselves in front of the Crystal Palace, reminding Sally of her father's castle. And surprise, surprise, the king, Sally's dad, is there too. Or is he? Poor Sonic believes that he's the real deal as he helps the king to escape from the void. As it turns out, the king wasn't really Sally's dad, rather was Naugus, who used Sonic's speed to escape from the void. But hold on, this guy, Naugus, despite being a sorcerer, is not a bad guy, as all he wants is revenge. And who's the guy that he's after? Of course, the one and only, the king of eggheads, Robotnik. He comes face to face with Robotnik, who's shivering in fear, as Naugus starts turning Robotnik's head into a slug, a monkey, a crow, and finally a pig that suits Robotnik the most. Sonic heads to the void and brings the king and his friends back to the surface, but the sorcerer realizes that he can't survive outside of it, so he sends Robotnik to play a game of hide and seek and starts counting till 10. In the end, Naugus and the real king have to go back to the void as the sorceress misunderstood the properties of it. The princess is heartbroken, but gets the list of freedom fighters groups from her dad. The episode wraps up with Sonic comforting Sally as Nicole starts talking just like our boy, Sonic. Looks like spending time with Sonic is contagious after all. So let's run on over to the next episode. Alright, episode 10, Cry of the Wolf, kicks off with the Doomsday Pod flying over the land of the wolves. The pod starts firing lasers, which the wolf pack barely manages to escape. Meanwhile, over in Robotropolis, Robotnik's busy admiring his most beloved project as Snively tries to get his attention about the attack. He orders Snively to take care of the matter, and the poor guy just kind of accepts it. But he silently starts cursing at Robotnik, which, doesn't really go well with mad scientists, as he grabs him by the collar and orders him to capture the wolf pack immediately. So back to our hero Sonic, who's along with Sally, Antoine, and Dulce head out to find the wolf pack. Along the way, they encounter some interesting obstacles, and let's just say Antoine's bravery is on full display. We finally meet the Wolfpack and their leader Lupe, who explains how Robotnik's being a total jerk. No surprises there. He's roboticized their once thriving colony down to just 10 members. But hey, at least they've got a cannon. That doesn't work at all. After getting the cannon fixed, they take it out and start firing on the Doomsday Pod. They successfully manage to bury it under a rock slide, but it pops right back up. So Sonic pulls out the power ring and creates a tornado that sends the pod and the other forces flying. However, the Doomsday Pod is still live and kicking. Meanwhile, Snively's having a pretty rough day. Let's be honest, when is he not? Back in the wolf's hideout, Sonic comes comes up with a plan of voluntarily surrendering to Snively. They get captured by some SWAT bots and are brought before him, who can't stop his excitement of catching Sonic and Sally. But Sonic quickly smashes the SWAT bots while Sally slips out of her handcuffs. She downloads the required data into Nicole, and they head back to the hideout ready to fry the Doomsday Pod. They lure the pod into the storm cloud area, and with one lightning strike, the Doomsday Pod turns into toast. The episode ends with a meeting of freedom fighter leaders, all ready to take down Robotnik's Doomsday Project. Will they be successful in bringing down the madman of Robotropolis? We'll find that out very soon. It's another rainy night in Robotropolis, and Uncle Chuck's waiting for Sally and Dolce. They finally arrive in a bit of a mess, with Dolce pulling off her classic crash landing once again. He gives Sally a floppy disk with some juicy information that is the recording of Snively talking to Robotnik about something called Henge. But Sally's like, huh? I've never heard of that, but still believes that she has heard of it. Uncle Chuck chimes in, saying that it's some royal family secret. That's great, right? Well, not really. Here's where the problem is. In order to know about this Henge thing, Sally has to wait until she comes of age, and sadly, she isn't old enough yet. Meanwhile, Robotnik's busy translating some ancient book, and Snively is out there too, informing the Egghead guy that he has found the first scroll. Robotnik's thrilled as he praises him and proceeds to input the information into the computer. The scene then shifts to Sonic and Tails, who are chilling in a hot spring in the great unknown. Right then, they spot Robotnik's ship and decide to follow it to Henge. There's a whole excavation going on, and Tails shows off his skills by taking out a surveillance orb. Unfortunately, Tails does get kidnapped by a SWAT bot while warning Sonic of the ambush, but Sonic, being the coolest hedgehog around, manages to rescue him and make Snively look like a fool. Back in the Great Forest, the princess is looking for Sonic and Tails as she's worried about Tails' safety. She spots them heading to Knothole Village and drops a bombshell that she has some bad news. But Sonic is like, nah, I actually have some really bad news. She tells him about the deep power stones and how she can access it only after she turns 18. Sonic smooth talks with Nicole, making her spill the beans about the stones. Turns out, when connected one way, the stone is a source of limitless energy. But if you flip it around, boom. Total destruction in 30 seconds. Talk about a nice offer. So they head back to Henge, with Tails tagging along despite Sally's disapproval. Dolce gets so emotional about Tails growing up that she can't even take off. After reaching the Henge, Sonic and Tails pull off a clever plan to trick Robotnik, so they make him think that they've found the second stone, forcing Robotnik to go after him. As he gets surrounded by the SWAT bots and Robotnik himself, he throws the stone in the lava, much to Robotnik's disappointment. However, he sighs and says, at least he finally has got the hedgehog. But Sonic is all like, no, not today, as he flies away with Dolce. In the end, our heroes return to Henge and take out the chest that is the real stone. They debate whether to destroy it, but Sonic decides to keep it. As Sally showers him with praises, Sonic reveals that the whole tricking Robotnik plan was Tails' idea. The princess is proud of him, and our little buddy is officially a freedom fighter. Moving to episode number 12, Spy Hog, we see Uncle Chuck spying in Robotropolis as he sneaks into the control room. Once inside the room, he starts hacking and gets crucial information on Robotnik's new fuel tankers. However, he gets discovered by Snively, but escapes by playing as a work bot. Outside, Sonic's juicing around Robotropolis as he gulps down a chili dog in usual Sonic style. He meets up with Unk, who hands him over the intel. He tries to convince Chuck to return back to the village. However, Chuck refuses, saying he's not ready to quit his spy gig quite yet. Back in the village, the princess is cooking up a plan to sabotage Robotnik's fuel tankers. However, instead of asking any questions, Antoine starts complimenting Sally's beauty. Oh, come on, man. They get a message from Uncle Chuck that the tankers will leave tomorrow. So the next day, the fighters head to Robotropolis and put their plan into action. As Sonic gets the attention of most of the guards, Sally, Bunny, and Antoine sneak under the fuel tankers. However, Sally almost gets spotted by one of the SWAT bots, but guess who saved her? It was Antoine who pulled Sally out of sight. Surprising? Very surprising. Robotnik figures out something is strange with Sonic and orders the guards to get back to their positions. Seeing this, Sonic realizes his friends are in trouble and blasts off to save them. Sally, Antoine, and Bunny get surrounded by the SWAT bots, but are still determined to go without a fight. However, you know when things get crazy, you can't leave Sonic behind. He swoops in from the manhole and rescues his friends, leaving Robotnik absolutely fuming. But this also leaves Robotnik suspicious, thinking that there is a spy working for the fighters in the city. He then orders Snively to do a full electronic sweep in the headquarters, and the poor guy starts working on it right away. The scene then shifts to Rotor's workshop, where Rotor shows a modified hover unit to Sally and Bunny. Not only that, he also presents a couple of other inventions that will be handy later on. Using the hover unit, they sneak into the Doomsday Project site and download all the required project files. However, Sally doesn't want to leave, as she wants to know what Robotnik's planning now, and she discovers that Robotnik has found Chuck's bug. Right then, Rotor's mechanical bird arrives with a message from Sally, saying Uncle Chuck is in danger. After hearing it, Antoine steps in and decides to warn him. Surprise again, he rides Dolce to Robotropolis, but ends up getting caught by Snively. That was pretty quick. But Snively's not sure whether he's a spy or not. Since he wasn't sure about it, he ends up thinking he just decides he's a spy. And now to get information from Antoine, he tries to torture him by cooking badly. I'm serious, I'm not kidding. Sonic meets up with his Unc in the vent and also spots Antoine, who's being tortured by Snively. As Antoine screams, Chuck asks Sonic to save him, or he will reveal the secret of Knothole. Sonic decides to save Antoine and does quick work of Snively and the SWAT bots. Now back in Chuck's hideout, Antoine starts complaining about how the dish should be prepared, but Sonic shuts his mouth as Uncle Chuck jokes about his weak point. As Sonic and Antoine leave his house, Chuck gets arrested by the SWAT bots and taken to Robotnik. Sonic returns back to his uncle's hideout, only to find it completely destroyed, and our boy knows who's behind it. With the help of the power ring, he dashes to find his uncle. As Robotnik was about to reprogram Uncle Chuck, Sonic jumps in and takes him away. They escape using Sally's hover unit, and Chuck leads them to a backup hideout. Sonic asks his uncle to leave the spy job behind to come and live with him in the village, but Chuck still refuses, saying that he has a lot to do. The episode ends with Chuck asking Sally and Bunny to take care of Sonic as he bids them goodbye. We're now on the final episode of Season 2, the Doomsday Project, as Robotnik finally shows off his Doomsday machine that's ready to take over Mobius in just 24 hours. Back in the village, Rhoda presents his new invention, metal-eating balloons, which work like a charm. Just when our heroes think that they've got time to spare, they hear a loud sound. Find out that the Doomsday machine has started its work. It starts spitting out the nasty Doomsday pods that start destroying everything in sight. Seeing this, Sonic and the gang realize that they've been duped, as Robotnik started his plan a week early. Sally calls in reinforcements from other freedom fighter groups, and they create a plan to infiltrate the hideout. In order to confuse the bots, the freedom fighters use decoys and break through the tunnels using the metal-eating balloons. But Robotnik is just kind of chilling, as he lets them in on purpose, as he's got a surprise waiting for them. Now with the other fighters captured, Sonic and his gang are left alone to defend themselves. He decides to stay behind to stop the machine, while the others escape. However, the princess wants to stay with Sonic to help him out, but Sonic tells her that she'll only slow him down. Once his friends leave, Sonic plants the explosives on the generator, thinking that he's won. But nothing happens, as the generator is protected by a diamond glass with the touch of some galvanized square steel. Before he could run, he gets trapped in a special roboticizer. Robotnik shows up and mocks him, saying that this is a roboticizer specially made for our blue hedgehog. But our boy's got a trick up his sleeve, or rather in his backpack. He takes out not one, not two, but 3 power rings to fight off the roboticizer.
This is unbelievable. Hedgehog!
He escapes from the evil machine, leaving Robotnik fuming. Sonic meets up with his friends and tells them the bad news, that he couldn't take down the Doomsday machine. But Uncle Chuck has got an idea, and tells them to make use of the deep power stones. There's a little problem. Robotnik's got one of them, so Sonic along with Nicole go on a little hunt in Robotropolis and manage to take the stone right under Robotnik's nose. Now back in the site of the Doomsday machine, Sonic and Sally team up to use the power of the stones. However, there's a bit of debate about whether they'll blow up the whole planet, but still, they decide to go for it, because, you know, why not? What else are they doing? As they activate the stones, they start juicing around the machine and wreck everything around. Robotnik and Snively scramble to escape as the whole place falls apart. In the end, the machine vanishes, taking away Robotnik with it. The duo land on a nearby hill, and Sally decides to give Sonic a kiss to see what happens. But our boy Sonic doesn't want it yet, as he escapes from there.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to find out. Out of here!
Finally, in Knothole Village, everyone's celebrating as Sonic and Sally finally share a kiss that literally creates fireworks with energy. And how is that for a happy ending? But wait, there's more. In the end, we don't see Robotnik, but Snively emerging from the ruins, sporting a new look and an attitude. He's ready to take control with Robotnik now gone, and he's not alone. That is how the series comes to an end. Wow. We got a thriller of an ending. Little unresolved cliffhanger, but hey, things turned out happy. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys would ever want a season 3, and what shows you want covered next. Of course, be sure to subscribe, make sure you never miss another recap. I hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time. See ya!